Hello, my name is Saron and I previously worked as a senior legal support project manager and government alliance for Chapdai Coalition. I am currently the director of prevention program at Agape International Mission. I have 15 years of expert working on cross-border trafficking, particularly forced marriage cases from China. I have worked directly with Cambodian embassies in China to rescue victims of forced marriage from harsh conditions. I am also working on repatriating them back to Cambodia. In addition, I am working directly to support survivors in filing complaints with anti-trafficking police to arrest traffickers, reintegrate survivors into communities, and give long-term follow-up and counseling support.
Hello everybody, good day. My name is Sudhir Katiyar. I work with Center for Labour Research and Action. This is a labour rights organization working with informal workers in India for almost 2 decades. We work with workers in agriculture, kilns and construction. Nearly all the workers in these sectors are unorganized. We engage with workers' organizations, building their capacity to organize workers and access their labour and human rights. Research, documentation and advocacy are part of our work. I am the founder member and secretary of the organization. Majority of the workers in the sectors that we work in, agriculture, brick kilns and construction, are seasonal migrants. Both agriculture and brick kilns have significant instances of human trafficking. I shall be speaking on trafficking in brick kilns in South Asia. I have worked mainly in India and was involved with a project in Nepal also. But conditions in brick kilns are similar in all of South Asian countries that include India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nepal and Bangladesh.
Hello, my name's Rebekah and I'm the Director of Operations at Stop the Traffik. I'm delighted to be part of the Asia Regional Anti-Trafficking Conference this year, and I'll be joined online by my fantastic colleague Lucrezia, who looks after our data engagement programme. Stop the Traffik are a global human trafficking prevention charity, having operated all over the world for the last 20 years. So what does Stop the Traffik do? Stop the Traffik see human trafficking both as a horrendous human rights abuse, but also as a highly profitable illegal business model. Businesses have to recruit people, they have to move their money, and they have to intersect with demand for people or product. And human trafficking is no different. Human traffickers every day are recruiting vulnerable people in to be part of human trafficking. They're also having to move and access the profits of their crime globally, which in the most recent estimate are estimated to be £500 billion. That's more than the GDP of 85% of countries globally. And finally, they have to intersect with legitimate business in their supply chains, whether to meet demand or to move people or product. And Stop the Traffik is changing the levers. We're turning the dial, making trafficking higher risk and lower profit. And we do this by attacking those 3 strands. We make it harder for traffickers to recruit vulnerable people by reaching them directly on their smartphones with trusted safety information at a critical point. We also work with over 250 global NGOs to safeguard and address the root vulnerabilities that can lead people to traffickers. We work with global financial institutions to trace and understand the movements of the money flows and profits that traffickers make, and crucially, we take action alongside financial institutions to stop traffickers. No profit, no crime, and this is a really important strand of our work and how we disrupt organised crime globally. And finally, we empower businesses to understand their trafficking risk within their supply chain and once again take action. And we do all of this with data at the heart of it. We work with lots of charities and people with lived experience who invest their stories in us. For many people with lived experience, they want their story to be part of creating a world different to the one from which they were exploited in. And for many of them, they don't want to be on a platform to do that. And so data has allowed us to solve challenges that we couldn't before. And we ingest these stories into the Traffic Analysis Hub, and they allow for anonymity, security, and empower people with lived experience to tell their story in the way that they wish to. Crucially, this data is then placed into the hands of people that can take action. It's so much more than a data set. It's about a global network of people taking action around democratized data. Thank you so much for having us to be a part of the conference, and we look forward to sharing with you more.
When we were putting together the agenda for the conference, we wanted to really ensure that you had an opportunity to hear from people that are doing frontline work in underrepresented forms of trafficking, the forms of trafficking that we don't always talk about, we don't always hear about. We're going to have each of our panelists share some about their work, and we're going to go ahead and start with Rebekah and Lucrezia from Stop the Traffic, who are joining us online.
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Amazing. Okay, great. I'm having a strange technological experience because I can see myself on one screen. I'm hyper aware that I'm potentially on a giant screen in the room that you're in, and I can see the feedback on a little mobile phone. But it's lovely to be with you all. My name is Rebekah. I'm from Stop the Traffic Global. I'm joined by my fantastic colleague, Lucrezia. It's quite early where we are, and I'm very sad to not be with you in person, but hopefully we can be together next year. I'm hoping that Joseph is going to pop up some slides, unless if someone in the room can wave if you can already see them. I'm seeing a thumbs up, absolutely perfect.
Yep,
so Stop the Traffic is a global human trafficking prevention organisation, and we work at the other end of the scale trying to stop trafficking from happening. Next slide, please, Joseph. Next slide, please. We're just going to jump straight into the scale of the problem because I've been briefed that we've got 7 minutes and I promised to keep to time. So when we look at the global scale of trafficking, I won't go into that as I'm sure many of you know it, but looking at this as a business model, a legal business model, is the theme of our talk today. So organ trafficking is estimated to be making 840 million to 1.7 billion globally. 10% of transplants at this time are believed to be illegal. And this issue is present globally. We're going to zoom in on some hotspots today, but we get reports of this from all over the world. Next slide, please. So how stop the traffic, view human trafficking? Obviously, human trafficking is a terrible human rights abuse, but it's also an illegal business model. And like any other business, it has to recruit, it has to intersect with demand for its product or people, and it has to move its money through legitimate financial systems. Next slide, please. When we zoom in a bit on organ trafficking, what we see here is how traffickers view this, which is a high profit and low risk crime. So if we zoom in on the US for a moment, what we can see is that there's 100,000 people on the waiting list for a kidney. Only 17% of those people will receive a kidney, and every day we've got 12 people dying while they wait for a kidney. What this creates is a high demand in the illegal business for kidneys. And the other challenge that we see within this, when we look at the global definitions around organ trafficking, there's not an agreed upon global definition. There's some fantastic research done by the UN on this. And often the prosecutions that happen in organ trafficking happen to the victim. And that's because they carry the evidence on them in the fact that they've often had the surgery. And that's if they survive through the surgery. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Becca. So if we look at the case of Egypt, we've been looking into this because it's one of the global centers for human trafficking for the purposes of organ removal, especially for kidneys. Every year, over 1,000 kidney transplants are conducted in Egypt, which are almost all likely based on commercial transactions. But if we trace this back along the 3 pillars that Becca was just talking about, we can see what's keeping this trafficking running. It was found that criminal networks recruit victim donors from vulnerable communities, particularly from irregular migrant and refugee communities from impoverished backgrounds. These include men, women, and children. The recruitment will occur face-to-face through local recruiters and also through social media. And this is because there's a huge demand. There are 42 identified centers for transplanting organs in Egypt, and these are just the identified ones. It was found that a single organ broker will allegedly arrange between 20 to 30 kidney transplants per week, with recipients coming from all over the world. And the baseline is, it brings in a lot of money. Victim donors are always offered different prices, and they always receive different amounts, depending on hidden costs that come with the operation. They're approximately receiving $3,000, with organ recipients paying between $40,000 to $100,000. but brokers are receiving per sale between $6,000 to $9,500. And this is just what we know so far. There's so much that we don't know, and if we knew more, we could trace it back to the source. Today we've presented Egypt due to intelligence reports we've received from this area, but this is happening all over the world with similar facts and figures, particularly in Southeast Asia. Next slide.
So we're just going to jump into a case study of somebody that we have supported in the last year around organ trafficking. So I will call him Ahmed for the purpose of today, but he reached out to us when he was targeted in a refugee camp in Turkey. So we used the data hub, which Lucrezia will speak to shortly, to look at where traffickers were most likely to be targeting young people in the regions of Turkey, and it highlighted some border towns. We partnered with social media to get safety messaging out to people within those border towns about the risks and realities of human trafficking. A young guy reached out to us, not to say, help, I'm being trafficked, as many of you in the room will know rarely happens, but actually to say, I'm planning on selling my kidney and how can I make sure I get the money? And it just shows the level of vulnerability that the people that are being approached for this are facing, that they'd reach out to an anti-trafficking organisation to check, how can I make sure I get paid? And I don't know if any of you in the room have 15-year-olds, but you often can't tell them not to do something. You have to journey with them. And he was already in a very scary situation. And the last thing we wanted to do was to add to that. So we empowered him with the realities of organ trafficking, using the case studies of hundreds of others that have gone before him who did not get the money, who faced life-changing disabilities, and have ended up in other forms of exploitation at the hands of the same traffickers who took their kidneys. We talked to him about the realities of that and his options, and then we looked at why he was planning on selling his kidney. He'd been approached by somebody in the refugee camp, offering to be his friend, offering to help him with onward travel to Europe. He was fleeing from Afghanistan and had been paid for by his family to be the one to go and have a different economic opportunity to provide for his sisters back in Afghanistan. He was homeless and did not have access to legal support, and thought that the £2,000 that he would get for his kidney, which he had been told would be a one-day operation that would leave him with no life-changing impact, would be the solution. So we got him access to a safe house with one of our fantastic global partners. We got him access to legal advice. And I remember the morning when the email came through, we would log on every day and speak to him. And he said, I'm not planning on selling my organ. Interestingly, and this is quite common, he had paid a medically interested fee to his trafficker. It's about €50 that says, I'm really serious about this, and is meant to cover some of the administration for checking he's a viable kidney donor. That €50 gave us a financial thread that we could then go and look into that account with financial institutions and see where that money was moving, and start to see the organised crime network that is going into these camps and locations and targeting young boys like Ahmed with an offer that we would know to be exploitation. Next slide, please.
So the only way that we can face this crime is through transparency and collaborating, by sharing what we know so that we can identify operations and disrupt this business model. At Stop the Traffic, we do this through the Traffic Analysis Hub, a software containing the largest collection of available global information on routes, trends, and hotspots on human trafficking. At the moment, it contains 4.5 million data items, and it's home to more than 240 active partner organizations. And this community is just growing. Next slide, please. What this software does is provide a safe, anonymous, and secure platform for human trafficking information and survivor stories to be shared, which can then fuel prevention programs. Direct support is so important, but it has to go hand in hand with prevention. Traffickers rely on the fact that we don't know how their business works, allowing them to continue to work in the shadows. But by working together, we can disrupt this. So we call upon all of you to get involved and reach out so that we can work together, because we cannot stop what we cannot see. Next slide.
Thank you so much. I promised the other panelists that we'd stick to 7 minutes, and hopefully we've done that. But just to echo Lucrezia's words, data and transparency is risky to traffickers. They rely on this staying as an underrepresented and unknown about crime, and the people that have the power to change that are people like us who see and understand that business model and can illuminate it. So Thank you so much, and we look forward to the rest of the panel.
You stuck to 7 minutes, thank you. Rebekah, Lucrezia, thank you so much for sharing about your work. That was incredible. I learned a lot. Saron, I'd love to pass it over to you to share a little bit about your work on forced marriage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, today is the last day of our conference. I'm pleased to share with all of you about the forced marriage cases. As I have been experienced working on these issues more than 10 years on the forced marriage. So may you have been known the China is the implemented the one child one policy is the affected 1979 and until to the 2020. So this implemented one child one policy has measures affected to the China's, especially the imbalance between the women and men. So as a report in 2021, the higher numbers of the men, 30 million of men higher than women. That's why it's the hard for the woman to get married for the Chinese as a Chinese man. So that this is the issue that has been into the trafficking in the region. So many of the Cambodian girls from Cambodian, Vietnam, Laos, and other provinces in the region also fell into trafficking in forced marriage. So another thing, as the traditional of the Chinese society believe that son can be take a responsibility of their family instead of girl. On the other hand, we can say that the traditionalists of the floods of the family has been inherited of the side by the male side. So that this is one of the another challenges. So on the other hand, in order to get married with the Chinese women, they have another requirement from the men is that they should have the permanent jobs and the house before they get married. So that when the girl married to the man families, the man is responsible for supporting of the whole families. So we can see the average of the dowries of price in order to get married with the Chinese girls. As I was the experience on this, so that the man should be spent around $30,000 US in order to get married with the Chinese women. If we compare the price, the cost of marriage between the Chinese women and the international price, so that we can see the low of the international the price. So that this is of the emerging the market into the international the forced marriage of cases. So that through the arrangement by the brokers in the region, so many of those women has been trafficked to China in forced marriage. Some girls, they have been promised by the broker to get the marriage with the highest, the richest family, and some of the girl has experience and by promising that has a good job in China, so that thousands of the Cambodian girls every year and has been the trafficking into China. So from the 2010 to present, estimated the 7,000 of the Cambodian girl has been trafficked to China in forced marriage. This is the trend of the marriage We can see the factors, we can call the push factors, that the limitation of education about the trafficking is one of the issue for the Cambodian women, because some of the Cambodian women who are living in the rural area where they are limited of knowledge regarding to the trafficking in Cambodian and in the region. Therefore, those girls easily fall trafficked into the trafficking. And the traditional of the custom that put the pressures of the woman, this is one of the factors as well, because of for the Cambodian, we still has the influence from the ancestors that the girl is not the option to the parent, because whenever they want to get married, the girl is under managing by their parent. So that some parents, they also influence in order to managing of marriage to their daughter as well. So that some of the Cambodian girls also force from their parent as well in order to get married, to get the highest benefit from the foreign, the bridegrooms. So another thing, we can see that the successful story of the girl who has been married with the Chinese man. So when they back to the community and they report to their friends, their acquaintance, and their relatives, and they saw their religious families condition where they get married with the Chinese when they come to the community. So that those things also very attractive from the community. So many women fell into trafficking through their relatives while they get married, and they back to communities and traffic those women back to the China as the forced marriage as well. So another thing, you can see the cost of their marriage. We can see the dowries of their marriage, also the high price. If we compare the woman, the Chinese woman and the international woman, mean that the woman who ran by the trafficker is the low price. So that many of the Chinese men, they can get the marriage with the international international woman. That is one of the challenges that we can see. Another the factor, if we call the push factor, is finding the good job and marrying with the healthy man. This is the promise of the brokers when they are aware, when they reach the community. They always promise that you will have a good job, you will have a get married with the Chinese man, you can send the money back to your family, and if you married, you can get the Chinese citizen, so that you can officially living as the Chinese citizen. This is another the issue that promised by the brokers. We can see the recruitment process. We can see the recruitment process is the broker identifies the girl who are living in the remote area where is easily to lure into the trafficking. And some women also working in the factory workers, and they has been heard about the marriage in China by their worker, by their relative who are work in the same factory, and also has some the Chinese men reach directly to the women where they are living in the rural area, where they are working in the factory worker as well, about the marriage with the Chinese men. So this is we can see the recruitment process. And we also had the most of the survivor occupation are factory workers, farmers, entertainment workers, and unemployment. So the most of our case that we are work recently for this year, as the report from the Chap Dai, we work the 19 cases of the women of forced marriage case to China, and most of the 19 cases, most of them are uneducated of the victims. And the process of the traveling, we can see in the before the 2018, most of the girls traveling by the plane from the international airport, from Phnom Penh International Airport, Siem Reap Airport, and travel directly to the Guangzhou, Shanghai, and Beijing. But before 2016, because of restriction, issued a visa for Cambodian women by the Cambodian embassy, Chinese embassy based in Cambodia. Restriction of issued a visa for Cambodian women traveling to the China in order to protect of the trafficking. So the broker used another way in order to transport the Cambodian girl to China. They used the land by traveling from the Vietnam border and across Vietnam border to China. Some girls, they use the boat across the border and transport by the forest, spending 2 time and today until they across the China. So we can see the broker between Cambodian broker, Vietnamese broker, and Chinese broker. They working as syndicated among them in order to transport Cambodian from Cambodian to Vietnam and from Vietnam to China. How about the intervention? We also have some challenging for the intervention, because in China does not have any the organization working on the trafficking issues in China. It's very hard to work, even though when we can reduce the survivor, only then we are working with the Cambodian embassies and try to explain the victim how to escape from their abusive situation and try to reach the Cambodian embassies. So it is spent a long time. So if the girl doesn't have the ID card, they cannot use the public transportation in order to travel from their place to the embassy. They're spending for a long time. So we also ask them to create the WeChat account in order to reach their locate where they are, and then we try to guide them to transport, to escaping from their place, reach the embassy in order to get the recruits from the embassy. So otherwise, we also ask them by the setting the Alipay. Alipay, that is one app that we can pay for the local transportation for our victim, because sometimes victim does not have the money in their pocket for the transportation, for local transportation. So we can use the Alipay in order to pay for the victim transportation, local transportation, in order to reach the embassy where they can where they can reach you. This is another challenge that we also have. Yeah, thanks so much for.
Thank you so much, Saron. I'd love to hear Sudhir more about your work. Would you be able to share some of your work? Here.
Hello, it's coming. So you're operating who's operating that?
Joe's operating.
Okay, sure. So I would be speaking on human trafficking and that bondage in Kilns in South Asia. I have worked mostly in India and to some extent in Nepal also. But as I said in the introduction, work conditions are similar almost all over South Asia. So I should be starting with the description of the work involved in making bricks, working in living conditions, the incidence of human trafficking in dead bondage in Kilns, and the legal framework to address these twin phenomena, root causes behind their prevalence, the interventions that we have done, also what are the current trends. So bricks are the basic building material in almost all of South Asia now. Earlier we had other local materials also like wood and stone, but bricks are more convenient and cheaper also. India is the second largest producer of bricks all over the world. And initially the brick were made mostly in the areas which are plain areas where a lot of mud was available, but now it has spread to all over the subcontinent. Now just show certain photographs, which start with the brick making process. This is the first process where you mix mud with water. Then then the next slide, please. Then this is the main process, which is molding of bricks. Almost 2/3 of the workforce is engaged in this particular process. So this is a video. Can you just start it? Yeah. So this explains, how the bricks are made. And normally, the migration is family migration in brick kilns. The whole family migrates, and the whole family also works together. So even young children will accompany the family to the brick kiln sites, and husband, wife, and older children, they all work together. Yeah, so you can move to the next one. This particular process is sun drying of bricks. Bricks are sun dried, and this is a process also where a lot of children get involved, because this is basically you turn bricks over, so when young children can work on it, and also they don't break the bricks when they walk over the bricks. Next one, yeah. And then this is the last process. There's one before this. Yeah, this is the okay. This is the one. Yeah. So this is where the bricks are being transferred to the kiln for the sun drying, for firing work. Yeah. The next one. And this is where they are being baked. This is basically the top of the kiln, and this is how the baking of bricks takes place. Yeah. The next one. Yeah. This is the last process where the bricks are taken out of the kiln to be sent to the market. So you would have observed that almost the entire process is manual. There's very little mechanization involved, except there's some mechanization in transport of bricks and mixing of the mud recently. So it is not as if machines are not available for doing this work. It's only in South Asia where the process is still manual. Just almost all over the world, the process got mechanized. And the main reason why the process continues to be manual in South Asia is that labor is so cheap that mechanization is not viable. So the industry, the employers, they find that if they mechanize, then the bricks they are making do not stand in competition with the bricks made with hand. So that is the main issue, that the labor is very cheap, so the whole mechanization. So now we move to the next continue part of it. We come to the issue of labor. The next one before it, I think. Yeah. This is okay. Yeah, the next one now. The next one, yes, please. Yeah. So why is the labor so cheap? So almost all the workers in the brick kilns are seasonal migrants, and they are recruited and transported under conditions that constitute human trafficking. Workers are recruited against advances from source areas by labor contractors, and then transported to work, sometimes thousands of kilometers away. As I said, the whole family migrates, including women and children. In many cases, they may not be aware of the place they are going to work. There is no written contact. And once at the workplace, they cannot come back till they have paid off the advance, and the whole season is over. And there was this particularly gruesome incident in the eastern state of Odisha, where the labor contractor, he chopped off the hands of 2 of the workers who tried to run away while being trafficked for work. And these conditions of work, they're almost similar, almost all over South Asia. Even within India, we have certain regions which are more developed, like South and West, but work conditions in brick kilns are very similar. Yeah, the next one, please. Next slide. So the condition that we describe, in terms of legislation, we call it debt bondage, where workers are bonded, they take an advance at the beginning of the work, and then they cannot come back. So almost the entire workforce in the brick kilns of South Asia can be considered to be under debt bondage as defined by law. So they have incurred a debt and are working at very low wages to pay off this debt. And they do not have freedom of movement. You cannot leave the worksite till they have paid off their debt. If a family wants to leave early, then their wages will get deducted. In fact, the wage rate would become half. There's also a lot of physical violence. Every year, many workers are released, thousands of workers are released from debt bondage. But the system continues. The system does not change. Yeah. Next slide, please. So I have tried to give an idea of the numbers of workers involved. And you can see it's a very large numbers. And across the countries, because as I said, it's all completely manual process. So you can see the number of kilns and the number of workers. These are guesstimates, because again, as the case with the informal sector, it's not properly documented, even though various laws impact the sector, and ideally should all be properly recorded. So we have something like 70,000 to 80,000 brick kilns all over South Asia, and around 7 to 8 million workers working in these brick kilns under conditions that we have described above. Yes. So what is the legal framework now to tackle both these issues, the issue of human trafficking as well as debt bondage? Now, in some of the countries in South Asia, there are dedicated laws to check human trafficking in persons. As a friend from Bangladesh was describing. So Bangladesh, Pakistan and Nepal, they have dedicated laws to check human trafficking in persons. India does not have a dedicated law to check human trafficking in persons. This bill has been introduced, but the offense is covered by sections in the criminal law, section 370 of criminal law. Now, as far as debt bondage is concerned, this is a historical phenomena in the Indian subcontinent. And earlier it was primarily present in agriculture, but now we find increasing incidence in other sectors also. So there are very strong acts against debt bondage. India passed an act almost 50 years back, in 1976. Pakistan also has a dedicated act against debt bondage. Nepal also has an act against debt bondage. And the other countries like Bangladesh and Afghanistan, there also the debt bondage is banned by labor laws, local labor laws. And the laws also provide for rehabilitation of survivors, that the workers who are rescued from debt bondage, they would be rehabilitated. So, what are the root causes now for perpetuation of this type of situation? That even though we have very strong laws in the countries to eliminate this sort of work conditions, and some of the laws are very old also, even then the phenomena continues at such a large scale. So obviously the one answer would be that the laws are not getting implemented, workers are getting released. Now the workers get released, but the cases, the persecution does not take place. In the sense that even though once informed, the authorities will get the workers released, because the act is very strong, Bond Labor Act. But they don't file a case. They don't want to acknowledge that there is presence of bondage in their states. So even though they'll release and send the workers home, there's no persecution of the guilty people. Then the other issue is that this whole offense of human trafficking, especially in labor, for human trafficking for labor, that is a very new offense. Its offense is of course old, but the concept in the criminal law is very new, and the police will rarely invoke these sections. Now they recognize Bonded Labor Act, but they don't recognize that this person has been trafficked. So the relevant sections of the Human Trafficking Act, they are not invoked. And one of the main reasons is the social structure, because the countries in South Asia, they continue to have a very highly feudal social structure, which is marked by caste system. While caste is a feature of Hindu society, it is widely accepted in South Asia. It is present across all religions. And most of the workers, they come from the castes which are historically marginalized. Also, majority of them are illiterate. They come from castes which are lower down the social order, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, sections of other backward castes. So these are the communities that are working in this sector. So Kilns is a perfect example, and because they're moving with their family, moving with the children, so the next generation also continues to be literate. So it's a very perfect example where what we call intergenerational transfer of poverty, exploitation, that is taking place. So how do we intervene now? We have been intervening at various levels, the civil society, the state. One is obviously getting workers released from bondage. Whenever there's information, whenever workers complain, you release them, get them released from bondage. But I would say that the main level of intervention is organizing of workers, because trafficking for labor, it's different for trafficking from sex work in the sense that it cannot be treated as a purely law and order issue. It's not that if you file cases, it will go away, or if you jail a trafficker, others will get deterred, because that is built into the labor process. So unless we ensure better implementation of labor laws, what we call decent work, as ILO defines it, and that is only possible when workers get organized. Otherwise, things will continue as they are. So a lot of our focus is on organizing workers into trade unions, so that they are aware of their rights, and they are able to enforce that the conditions get better, wages get better. And organization also has an impact on extreme violence, extreme bondage situations. Once the employers are aware that the workers are organized and they have a legal recourse, they can go to some place, there's a helpline number in place, then their exploitation will also come down. At the long term, we believe that the solution lies in creating transparent labor markets, because human trafficking is for supplying labor. And that is because we do not have very transparent labor markets where the employers and the workers can come together. So the labor market is mediated through labor contractors. And that's a whole business by itself. Supply of labor becomes another business where the odds people will come in, they gain huge profits. So we believe that if we are able to create transparent markets, and it's a very ironical situation, for example, in the sense that human labor is probably the most precious commodity, but it is not properly, the market is not transparent. If you look at commodities, they are very well regulated, and you have a proper market, functioning market. There are places where the buyer and the seller come together. Everything is documented. But unfortunately for human labor, that is not there. So as I said that even though the situation has not changed for a long time, and there's been very little technological change in the industry, there are indications that this might not continue for a long time, and there are certain major factors which are driving change in the industry. One is the environmental challenge, and the whole industry is very polluting, and because of this, the awareness about the changes happening in the climate change. So brick kilns is like the third largest contributor to carbon in the air in India. So there's a lot of pressure to reduce emissions, reduce the use of coal, and shift to greener fuel. So that would also lead to a change in the technology. There's also changes happening on the demand side, in the sense that bricks are also getting replaced by newer construction materials now, especially for high-rise constructions. As urbanization is picking up, cities are growing, so you cannot use bricks to the same extent in high-rise constructions. So you're getting prefab materials. So that is happening. There's also labor shortage, and mechanization is also picking up. And finally, one hopes that the communities will also get empowered, and this sort of extreme manual labor under such conditions will slowly go away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sudhir. I think it's really important that we talk about these lesser known, we call them underrepresented, but some of the statistics that you all were sharing, they're not underrepresented in terms of victims. So thank you so much for sharing. We're going to go to some audience questions.
What are the key, what are the key factors explaining why these areas are underrepresented? What more can be done to highlight the nefarious aspects of them to generate research and funding for active prevention and solutions for successful prosecutions?
I think that for trafficking of forced marriage case, it is complicated cases. And because the victim of identification between the country is also very different as well, because China is not a signatory of the Palermo Protocol, so the doesn't has the legal provision for on human trafficking for the victim. So, however, when the have case, they also use the family laws. It means that divorce or immigrant law, which is the victim as the illegal immigrant in China. So I think for prevention, good prevention should be the China should be has the MOUs between the country to country. Even though Cambodian government also has the agreement between the Cambodian government and Chinese government, but this is not adequate for the prevention of the forced marriage case in China. So this is one, and another I think should be transaction between the country to country, between Cambodian, Vietnam and China, in order to take attention on the cross-border traffic, crossing the border, because every time many of the girl has been across from Cambodian to Vietnam, from Vietnam to China. So that organization should be working together and has a bilateral meeting in government and government, NGO and working on prevention, transitioning, border transitioning between this country and country. So that this is one of the measures that we can measure how to prevent of those girls. Thanks.
So in case of victims, I would say it is underrepresented, underreported, partly because, mainly because it is what we call lies in the informal sector. And as you know that, like I think that's informalization is a growing trend all over the world, where the trend is to informalize workers. And one of the reasons for that is that you hide things under, you don't document it properly. And so nobody is aware what are the numbers involved, because numbers are huge otherwise. It's a huge industry, but unfortunately it remains undocumented. So the way out is one is to formalize it, to make it more clear. Like we have this whole process of what we call due diligence nowadays in global supply chains, where the buyers want to go back the supply chain and say, look at, where all it is happening. So you're trying to formalize it. So I think that is one main driver, that and there is also a trend towards formalization, that the workers have to be brought under certain type of social security, and you cannot let things remain as they are. So if we move towards formalization, I think it will change.
Thank you so much. Rebekah, Lucrezia, do you have anything you want to add to this particular question?
Yeah, I think it's probably no surprise that we would suggest that the data gap also adds to the representation around this. And I know that exists across all forms of trafficking, but we measure across all different forms of trafficking and we get less on organ trafficking. And one of the main factors for that we touched upon briefly is the fact that the person who has their organ taken is often criminalized for this. And it makes it very hard for people to come forward with information around how they were approached. The other angle where I think pressure could be taken for this to be more brought to light is within the financial sector, because traffickers are only taking people's kidneys and organs in order to make money, and they have to move and access that money. And so if those threads of financial transactions are uncovered, then I think the financial sector has a role to play in targeting organised crime for organ trafficking.
Thank you so much. Do we have another question?
What are the challenges and gaps in service provision for victims of these forms of trafficking?
I think for forced marriage is the big gap is that how we pressure to the government to recognize that the forced marriage is trafficking. Yes. Because right now the Chinese government does not recognize that forced marriage is trafficking. So they say that just illegal immigration in China. So how, as we as the civil societies are working on this issues that we always working within the Cambodian government to push Cambodian government in order to work very close with the Chinese government in order to help the victim identification between the two countries. If we have the same guidelines, the identification, we can work in the flows of this. However, for international investigation so far, the anti-trafficking of Cambodian and China, they also has the resources, information among the country and two countries as well. So this is one another, and we call the Nanchangs among the sub-Mekong region, so that those countries can work together on the cross-border trafficking and cross-border trafficking. And another issue that I think that prosecution should be increased as well, because through our data that we work every year, thousands of the trafficking repatriated back to Cambodian, but only a few cases are investigated to prosecute the offenders. Some offenders, only Cambodian offenders are prosecuted, but other country, other traffickers like Vietnamese trafficker or Chinese trafficker are not convicted. So that should be country and country working on this and have the victim identification, so that I think can be strength on the conviction. Yes, thanks.
Thank you. Sudhir, anything to add?
Yeah, so the bonded, as I said, that most of the cases of trafficking victims, they get addressed under the Bonded Labor Act in South Asian countries. So this act also has very liberal provisions for rehabilitation of workers, rehabilitation of victims of this workers who are released. But as I said earlier, that the cases do not get filed. While workers are released and sent back home, there is no prosecution. So they normally, for example, in India, you have to have a certificate, what is called a release certificate. Once the worker is released from a workplace under this act, the authority should give him or her a certificate. So now, as I said, that the authorities do not want to acknowledge that bondage is there in there, because it's a bad image for them. It's a bad thing for them. So they don't give the certificates. That's the thing, and there's no prosecution. Prosecution does not follow also because the workers are migrant workers, and they have been released after I would say a fairly duration of stress. And they also want to go back home, and if you want to prosecute, then you have to stay back and follow some minimum amount of prosecution. So workers also want to go back, they don't stay on and follow prosecution. So those are the challenges, I would say, and that exist. Yeah.
Thank you. Rebekah, Lucrezia, anything to add?
Yeah, not to obviously just keep repeating everything that we keep saying, because we're really, really passionate about data, but the whole baseline is the big data gap in this, which means that then we can't feel prevention, we can't really see what's going on. And, the whole thing is we're scared to use data, we're scared to share information, but traffickers themselves are sharing, traffickers themselves are using data, and we're not able to catch up with them. And then that also means that through that, we can't look at better education in the topic, look at better raising awareness. And it all stems from the fact that we don't know what's going on until it's too late. And so that's what I'd say the biggest gap is. I don't know if, Becca, you want to add anything?
Yeah, just to say, we often see a lot of misinformation to the communities that are targeted for organ trafficking. So they're often told that it will be a short operation. They're told that it's no risk to their health. They're told that they get a certain amount of money. They might be told that it's legal. And one of our best ways to counter that is with real stories of people where that hasn't happened, and real cases. And so it's a bit of a vicious cycle in that, because it is illegal, and because often the people that face this might not make it or might face life-changing disabilities that can also add to that data gap. So it kind of further exacerbates that gap.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Chris, do we have another audience question?
What are key actions strongly required to be taken by civil society organizations or NGOs if they're faced with forced marriage cases in which family units also play a role in exacerbating the issue?
Yeah, around how do nonprofits take action when forced marriage cases are happening where families have a role in facilitating the case?
I think as I mentioned earlier, that we need to strengthen the border strengthening between the country to countries. This is one of the work that we should do, even though we as the private sectors or public sectors, and also the exchange the information and law related to the trafficking in persons, and the party shall not punish of the victim of legal entering to that country in territories. So this is one of my ideas. Yes, thanks.
Thank you so much. Chris, next question.
What are the markets for the bricks made, and what can governments do to incentivize purchasing companies to contribute to ending exploitative practices?
Yeah, see, the market for bricks is mostly, it's a local market. Bricks are consumed by the housing industry. And there's also one issue in the sense that the supply chains where there's an export component, they get more attention, from donors and from government also, in the sense that there is pressure to clean up the supply chains. But when you have a commodity that is produced internally and consumed internally, domestically, then there's not so much of pressure because there's not so much of pressure from domestic buyers. So also some of the buyers can be small because small households also make houses and buy bricks to make their houses. But at the same time, construction is a boom industry. Construction is a very large industry, and the huge significant part of the construction industry is now comprising of corporates, big companies, which are engaged in the construction. So there is definitely remains a lot of scope to pressurize these buyers, pressurize these huge companies to clean up their supply chain, to ensure that they buy bricks which are better made, which is like there's another question also which is talking about certification of bricks, which unfortunately, at least I have not come across any certification of something like fair bricks or bricks made with fair, decent practices, bricks made without child labor. Even though attempts have been done, as part of an attempt in Nepal, where one of the groups, they tried to evolve a standard for bricks which can be certified. It is called Better Bricks Nepal. These bricks are made with basic procedures in place. Basic labor laws have been followed, and child labor is not there. I don't know what happened to that, because then the earthquake came and then COVID happened. So I'm not very sure what happened to that finally. In India, I have not seen any such initiative so far where the bricks are being certified.
Thank you. Chris, next question.
Are there any policies at the government level to help mitigate organ trafficking?
Part of the challenge of this answer is it really depends on which government, and that's part of the problem, is that there's not an agreed upon global definition of when it would count as organ trafficking. And similar to what we see in sex trafficking, there's different criminalization models that exist globally. So I wouldn't say there's particularly strong policy. There's not many also high profile cases of prosecution. The majority of prosecutions happen to the victim. So any policies that would look to prosecute the perpetrators, we also believe that there's some pressure that could be created by regulators to financial institutions to say that if they're found to have the profits of organ trafficking moving through their systems, that they would hold liability for disrupting that. So in short, there's not a coordinated government policy approach to this, and that's part of the issue. So anything that sees cross-country collaboration on this topic, I think would be welcomed.
great. Thank you. Please.
For Cambodian government has developed the several legal framework laws and policies and addressing of the human trafficking and forced marriage. So the Cambodian has developed and invested the suppression of human trafficking in 2018, and the government also has the ratifies the active ASEAN Act Anti-Trafficking in regions, and Cambodian government also ratifies on the Palermo protocols that we can use for the as the law of the victim identification for Cambodian. And government also has the strategic plan, NCTT, we call the National Counter and Counter Trafficking in Person for Cambodian. We have strategy plan for 5-year strategy plan, and this year they also has launching the new strategy plan for the next 5 years, 2014-2018. This is also we identify the new trend of trafficking, include this online scamming and other new trend of trafficking also has been designed. So that I think that this is what is the government has been doing in so far in order to combat on human trafficking in Cambodians.
Thank you so much. Chris, do we have another question?
How can grassroots NGOs help in the issue of forced marriage when the need of financial stability is needed in the victims' families? And what does rehabilitation and reintegration look like in these cases?
I think that we also have some gap for repatriation process between country and country, that we also have some the MOUs between country and country, but some MOU is just MOU but not well implemented through the MOUs, and the process of repatriate back to Cambodia, to communities, and how that we long term the follow up while the victim reintegrate to the community. So that as our experience that working for the 10 years, because before Chap Dai, they also has 10-year project for Butterfly project that we follow up for 10 years. 120 cases we follow up for 10 years. Among the 100 cases, only the half of those amount as the success reintegrated. So that I think for grassroots organization and government also has the tool how is the monitor after the reintegrate to the community or data management in order to track the successful case or successful of what is the requirement from the survivor after they reintegrated. Example for long-term livelihood support, counseling support, or another need that after they reintegrate to the community. That is the civil society organization should be strengthened in order to for long-term support, because through our experience, some of the case after reintegrate to the community, they also re-traffic again because of not well for long-term support in the community levels. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions.
Is there any partnership and collaboration being done with medical associations or healthcare organizations to tackle trafficking for organ harvesting?
I actually don't know. I've not heard of any, but that's not to say that they don't exist. And I'd be very excited if anyone does know of it, please do share, because I do believe that businesses have a huge role to play within this, and different to other forms of trafficking, this type of trafficking has to go through a legitimate medical facility. And so we know that there has to be a complicitness of medical professionals within this, and that has to go through multiple levels of that medical profession, from surgeons to administrators, right through to the specific boxes you need to be able to move an organ and keep it in a healthy state that it can be used for a transplant, to blood tests, etc. So we know that this is multi-level through the healthcare system, and therefore that's multiple opportunities to disrupt organised crime that may sometimes be threatening these people to make them complicit, or this is people looking to make money. So being transparent, I don't know of a good collaboration, but please find my email and send me one if you do know about it, because I believe it's a key part of the solution.
Thank you. I love when we have homework. Chris, final question.
How do you address the issue of child victims in brick kilns?
So as I said that the brick kilns, the whole migration is family migration, and children are also accompanying their parents. So the issue has been, brick kilns were probably the site of the largest number of child workers in India now. But because they are accompanying their parents and they are working with the parents, so it does not get highlighted. So when you talk about child labor in India, normally brick kiln children get let out of the ambit. But at the same time, the issue has been before the state, before the civil society for a long time now. There is such a large presence of children at the brick kilns, far away from their homes, and various strategies have been tried out. Various means have been tried out. One is to provide for schooling at the brick kiln itself. That we open schools at brick kilns where children can go to study. Other is to enroll the children in nearby schools, because brick kilns are located in nearby, around villages, near villages only. So the village itself, the main village itself will have a school. So why not enroll children in that school? Another innovation has been that when parents migrate, they leave their children behind. They do not, the children are held back, or parents are requested to keep the children back. And the state, the government, it opens a hostel in that village where children can stay back and study. But obviously, all these are problematic solutions. They're not easy solutions, all of them, as you can see. Like leaving children behind while parents are going to their work long away, that's not easy. And also running these schools, running these hostels is also not easy. Running temporary schools is not easy. So I would say things are not very good. And also the fact is that in India, the state of public education itself is very bad. It's almost in a state of collapse, where the government system is not functioning very well, the primary education system. So the better off sections, they enroll the children in private schools, where education is better. But the children of the poor, they end up studying in public schools where education is very bad. And I would say things are not very good.
Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking our panelists for their time, their work, and their preparation for our panel today. I'll hand it back over to Helen.